Okay, so we're gonna make a reaction time game here on the Raspberry Pi Pico, and the goal is to measure our reaction time when, so that LED is gonna go off, and we're gonna try to press that button as fast as we can to respond to it, and we'll measure how much time it takes. So our first step, though, in doing all that is just gonna be getting it set up so we can press a button and have an LED respond, just so we have an input and output. And I got a picture here, and that LED is missing the resistor on it. Okay, so there should be a resistor connecting the LED to ground from here to there. Let's go ahead and draw that in real quick. So we're going to have a resistor connecting the LED from here to ground. There's a resistor symbol. Okay. So anyway, so we got our LED connected to pin 0 on the Pico, and we've got our button connected to pin 1. And then you see the LED, the ground leg of it's connected to ground via the resistor. And here the other leg of the button is connected to ground using the jumper wire. Okay, so this is the circuit we're going to use. So we're going to build this circuit. And once you have that circuit built, we're going to come into Tawny and we're going to build some code just so that we can control the LED with the button. So we're going to import, we're going to say from machine import pins. We're going to import that pin object. We're going to import time as well. Okay, and so let's make our LED object. So LED equals pin. We're going to put on 0, and we're going to call it an output pin dot out. Okay, and then we're going to make our button, and we're going to put that on pin, and we're going to call that pin. Oops, sorry, it should be pin 1, and we're going to call that pin dot IN, and there's one more thing we're going to do here that we're going to learn about later. We're going to say pin dot pull up. Okay, and we'll learn about what this means later. Basically what it means is that when the button's not pressed, it's going to read 5 volts. When it's pressed, it's going to read, or not 5 volts, 3.3 volts. When it's pressed, it's going to read 0. And so when we're reading the state of the button, it's going to read 1 or 0. When it's not pressed, it's going to read 1. And when it's pressed, since it connects to ground, it's going to read 0. So now what we're going to do is we're going to say while true. We're going to say LED dot let's actually do this first. We're going to say print button dot value like that. Okay, and we're going to do time dot sleep, and we'll wait a quarter of a second before we do it again. And so what this is going to do is just going to loop, and it's going to print out the value of the button. And so I'm going to save this and run it. And so we see it reading as 1. I'm pressing the button, you see it turn to 0. I let go, you see it turn to 1. Okay? And so when I read button.value, it's just reading the state of that pin, whether it's connected to the high voltage, 3.3, or low, which is ground. And so when you see the 1, it's connected to 3.3 volts. That's because of the pull-up. When I press the button, it connects it to ground, and that's why it reads 0. Okay? And so that's how the button works. And so here we want to modify this now to control an LED. So instead of printing, well, we can still print if we want, but what we're also going to do is we're going to say LED dot value is going to be button dot value. Okay? So now when we do this, because when the button is not pressed, this is 1. When we do this, the LED will be turned on when the button's not pressed, and then when we press the button, it will turn off. Okay, so you can try this, and what you'll see is that exact behavior. So when I press that button, you can't see it because it's not in the camera, but when I press that button, that light's going off. And so, or with that light, and so to reverse that, so that the light goes on when the button's not pressed, I can invert it by doing not there. And now it's off, and then when I press the button, it turns on. Okay, so our first step is just getting this working where we press the button to turn on an LED.